Almost there. Thursday. Welcome to Frontline, 6 o'clock here on the East Coast. We are in day 23 of the government shutdown. In the nation's capital today, the Democrats again voted against paying the troops during the shutdown. Also at the White House, where President Trump just wrapped up a pretty cool meeting on the dangers of drug cartel and even human trafficking, even comparing the cartels to ISIS. We're going to have much more with that in the meeting a few minutes ahead with the U.S. Marshal Director. And Letitia James is seeking a dismissal of her indictment by challenging U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan's appointment as the U.S. Attorney in the Eastern Virginia District. Does James have a chance? Not really, I don't think so. But first, a cheating, gambling mafia scheme taken down by the FBI today was so big that the amount of money stolen could actually reflect on our GDP. Let's do this. All right, you might have seen this story today where the FBI announced what amounted to possibly a multi-billion-dollar scheme, with the FBI noting specifically tens of millions in this immediate investigation into sports betting and mafia gambling using the NBA. Look, even I, who doesn't follow sports almost at all, was like, whoa, this is insane. Listen to this.
What you don't know is that this is an illegal gambling operation and sports rigging operation that spanned the course of years.
As I said, I don't do sports ball. I don't gamble. So at first I was like, yeah, whatever. Who cares, Cash? And then I heard the part about this being coordinated by the mafia. I thought we were done with this in like the 90s, like Rudy Giuliani took care of it. No, it's actually alive and well. Two parts here, and they're linked by using the NBA in the middle. The first is sports betting, and the second is high-dollar underground gambling in the Hamptons, Vegas, Miami, and Manhattan. So let's do the sports betting first, all right? This is crazy. Terry Rozier, you know, the current point guard for the Miami Heat, who earned $160 million so far in his career by just playing. Forget his endorsements, okay? So I don't know why this guy is roped into winning a couple $100,000 cheating, but here he is. He's at the center of this, allegedly giving inside information about players' injuries and even throwing games himself. But even LeBron James, you know, Diddy's friend, has been brought into the fray for all this, as an associate of his was leaking injury information that was then bet on, okay? These guys, many others, allegedly at this point, ran a complex rigged betting scheme. They've only been able to track tens of millions of dollars now, but they're estimating this could exceed over $1 billion in wrongfully won earnings just for this. Right? This is wild. Stephen A. Smith said this was only the beginning.
How many times, for one incident after another, have I said Trump is coming? In his eyes, folks try to throw him in jail. In his eyes, he's innocent. They try to put me behind bars. I'm getting everybody. He's not playing. And so this, in a lot of people's eyes, talk to people in the NBA, talk to people in the NFL, talk to people in the world of sports. They think this is like the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, I mean, he's saying Trump's coming after him. Trump's coming after fraud. I mean, these guys are accused of buying out, sometimes cutting players, you know, throwing games, dipping out of games with fake injuries to doctor their stats for individual performance wagers, even some making intentional bad plays in order to sway huge 7-8-figure bets in their favor. I went back and watched some of these things that they were talking about that we now are like, oh, actually, like, we can't play these here because of licensing, obviously, but like accidentally dribbling a ball off their foot and giving it to the other team. I mean, like, I don't even play basketball and I don't do that, okay? And these guys are professionals. A lot of it actually makes sense now. But we're talking about millions of dollars at a time. And if there were betting limits, that was no problem. They just found some straw bettors and like random people who either got a cut or were forced to do it or were in on it altogether to just place more bets in other people's names. And this is just for basketball. The investigation is still ongoing. I wonder if it's going to trickle over to the NFL as well. The second part of this hullabaloo, noted by the FBI, linked the use of NBA athletes to 4 of the 5 major New York mafia families. La Costa Nostra is what they call the group. It's the Bonanno family, the Gambino family, the Genovese family, and the Lucchese family in this high-dollar gambling schemes, including Chauncey Billups. He's the Hall of Fame, okay? Hall of Famer. I don't know what he's doing wrapped up in this. He's a current NBA coach who allegedly at this point would then go schmooze with high net worth individuals and lure them into these card games, and specific to a certain table. Okay, mostly at illegal underground poker games and gambling parties. But they would get these guys to come over to the table, and there was a specific table that was fixed up with this high-tech, like medical-grade X-ray technology, rigged card shufflers. They had poker chips that could read card, whatever. Listen to this.
Defendants used other cheating technologies, such as poker chip tray analyzers, which is a poker chip tray that secretly reads cards. Using a hidden camera, special contact lenses or eyeglasses that could read pre-marked cards, and an X-ray table that could read cards face down on the table.
They got these high-dollar gamblers who thought they were there to play high-dollar fair games to play against fixed people who were in on it. They'd give these guys like a healthy bump to boost their confidence, knowing their hands the whole time. Then they would get them to bet big. They would ensure that the proper cards were then dealt, or at least known, to the house, and they'd take them for everything. I mean, we're talking million-dollar card games here, okay? And here's where it gets even crazier, is the financial whiz that was moving the money around in all of this. They were laundering the money through shell companies, through art dealers, offshore accounts, and even crypto on cold storage drives, making this super hard to track the exact dollar amount that's still floating around from these bets. This has been going on, apparently, though, for like half a decade. What the hell was Biden's FBI doing? Oh, right. This is what happens when you have more than a third of your FBI too busy to identify grandma at the J6 protest to go investigate the Gambino crime family. You got mob criminals using basketball players to schmooze people into poker games, and Biden's FBI with Christopher Wray is worried about parents speaking about masking their kids at school board meetings, calling them terrorists. I'm pretty sure I was on that list, too. This today was as big a takedown as Rudy Giuliani taking on the crime families when he was a prosecutor, before he was even mayor. This is like high-tech 1950s Tommy gun-style pinstripe three-piece suit syndicate stuff. But what's interesting is normally these investigations like this, they don't make it public until the investigation has concluded. Sure, there were some indictments today. I think it was over 30 individuals were arrested across 11 states.
The FBI led a coordinated takedown across 11 states to arrest over 30 individuals today responsible for this case, which is very much ongoing.
Very much ongoing. This makes me think that the investigation was prematurely blown. Maybe a confidential source or an undercover agent was compromised in this, but ongoing. I mean, you're already talking about billions of dollars. Look, here in 2025, everyone's focused on these illegals who are getting their CDLs with no name given, who are killing people on the road, or Antifa crime and local. That's what I'm worried about. That's what I thought I had to be worried about. And here we are talking about mobsters money laundering through technologically advanced X-ray gambling and millionaires throwing basketball games. Are you kidding me? Again, you may not be into sports. I'm certainly not. Look, I'm a Jets fan. Okay, we lose everything. But the sheer volume of this syndicate is its impact on the industry as a whole. 10%. That's like 33 million American adults are wagering bets every year on sports online. You have more than $100 billion a year, with a projected increase to up to $200 billion in the next 5 years. And its fan base is growing rapidly. The number of people with online betting accounts, many of which who were affected by this, increased from 6 million to 33 million in just like a couple years, from 2019 to 2023. Imagine if there was a handful of people manipulating who wins those bets and shaving the money off the top. That happened because basketball is the second, I didn't even know this, basketball is the second most popular sport to bet on. I don't even watch it. But 38% of Americans placed some sort of bet on basketball during the last basketball season. Now, how many of them, or maybe even you, lost money because someone may have threatened a player and they did something not genuine, maybe through a game? The financial crime is so large that it could literally tip the statistics of GDP if we find out enough in this country. Tax attorney Rebecca Walser and senior research fellow for Unleash Prosperity, EJ Antoni. All right, so EJ, you're talking about $100 billion that could potentially almost half of it be tainted.
Absolutely. And we haven't even started talking about all of the frankly rampant speculation around not just players but referees in all of these different sports. You know, how many times have we seen a game, for example, where a referee or an umpire is standing right in front of something and completely blows the call, and you have to wonder, what on earth were they looking at? Well, maybe they weren't exactly looking at the play. Maybe they were considering what they were told to do in order to make one of these bets good or bad. So I think as we start to learn more and more about this, you'll learn just how deep the rabbit hole goes, and I'm afraid it's probably pretty darn deep.
Yeah, but Rebecca, you know, back to the money thing. I mean, you guys are both finance people, and I'm looking at this. The NBA is worth $160 billion, give or take. The WNBA loses $40 million a year, but that's neither here nor there. You have vendors, you have betting things, like all these online things. They are all affected by this. And if the good faith of that goes down, you're talking about mom and pops losing huge economic options.
Absolutely. And you know, Carl, it reminds me of the saying, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. And I think the American public is looking at it and saying, I don't understand. An NBA, a head coach, players, you know, and to your point, yes, there was a scheme that was involved in the games they were in. But what about all of the mom and pops out there that did, the 38% of Americans that bet on the basketball games? Those games did not turn out the way they might have otherwise should have because of the inside information. That the poker and the mafia is baffling to me. I mean, the sophistication of these games with the technology, and they were able to lure in high rollers because they're like, oh, you're going to play with an NBA
and using
coach.
Bitcoin.
You're going to play with an NBA player. I mean, how easy is it to get people to say, oh, I want to play with these people. These are honest people. These are ethical people. And the mob is actually financing this whole operation. So, I mean, I think this goes really deep. It literally speaks to sports in general. What is the underlying current of really these professionals making money on the sidelines with insider information? And the poker is just a whole nother game in and of itself. It reminds me of like Al Capone. I'm like, the NBA and Al Capone, this is going to be a movie, Carl. You know this is going to be a movie.
It's so wild. And EJ, the other thing too is, you know, I talked to people today about, we were on the fence about doing this as our open for the show. And like, if I'm sold on something with sports, it's probably a big deal. Like, I don't know anything about this until really I started digging into it today. And the people I talked to, were like, yeah, let's do this or let's not do this. But I kind of started to make the comparison. It's like, okay, you have like the trucking industry. What if packages weren't being scanned and taken out and sent to someone else in transit? Or the online retail industry, we're paying for things and they weren't being delivered. Or the aircraft industry where parts, you know, you weren't getting aircraft aluminum parts, but you were being billed for it. All three of those industries are the exact same size as the NBA betting industry.
Right. And Carl, you know, again, we haven't even talked about some of the different ramifications here because online betting is actually much bigger than we're really able to estimate today because of the explosion in sites like Polymarket, for example, or Kalshi.
You can bet on anything.
Yeah, exactly. You can bet on just about anything.
Bet on
not just
basis.
who's going to win a game or who's going to lose a game. You can bet on which player is going to get a certain number of yards, which team's going to get the first injury. I mean, you name it. Just if you can imagine it, there's a betting market for it. And so what I'm getting at here is the fact that I think the actual damage here goes far beyond what a lot of people have estimated. I think a lot more people have been affected than what the FBI has uncovered so far.
Rebecca, in all your experience, do you see any way that people might figure out they're wronged and get their money back?
Oh, gosh. I mean, you'd have to go back at the insider information. You have to see how many players were on the injury list that they didn't, that kept private, and they announced at the last minute, and people bet the other way. You know, there's an example of an April 23 game where there was, you know, against the Cavaliers and the Orlando Magic, and, you know, that's a problem. So, you know, this is really going to be something that has to be investigated. There's a lot of information about, like, the Polymarket. It's funny. I follow Polymarket more than the polls now because it's more accurate. It's
it's money.
People are betting their money, so Polymarket has been more accurate to me for the political elections, and I think maybe that's what we have to start seeing. Polymarket betting that's not, you know, actually the actual sports betting itself, to see what the real, you know, the odds are, and then see if it's being manipulated on the actual sports and gambling side.
This is like the craziest rabbit hole I think we've ever been.
It's going to be a movie, I'm telling you.
Yeah. EJ, Rebecca, we appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
coming
you.
up, Biden's open borders are to blame for another illegal immigrant released into the U.S. under his administration that ended up killing another bunch of innocent Americans. But first, President Trump's roundtable on his administration's efforts to crack down on drug cartels and human trafficking, even something else crazier. We got that next.
Will you be able to afford your golden years? Do you worry how you'll make ends meet? You may be leaving up to $100,000 unclaimed. You need this special report. How to boost your Social Security and retirement by at least $100,000 or more. Get your free copy today. You've earned the benefits. Take advantage now. See our special offer to claim your free report. Call or go online today.
Derriere, caboose, booty, badunkadunk. No matter what you call it, if you have hemorrhoids, your tushy is no laughing matter. So don't use a cream that treats your rear end like a joke. Get serious relief with Recticare Advanced Hemorrhoidal Cream. Recticare Advanced is seriously effective with 2 powerful medicines for rapid dual-action relief, soothing the uncomfortable swelling, itching, and pain of your hemorrhoids. For serious hemorrhoid relief for your buns, get Recticare Advanced.
With today's NBA stars, no lead is safe.
Bet on it. Up 20 used to be a lock.
To Steph, Booker, and Brunson, that's fool's gold.
Got a lead against the Joker? Joke's on you.
Hoopers get hot like pop, pop, pop. And your bet just cashed.
That's money.
New customers bet $5 and get $300 if your bet wins. Paid in bonus bets. Plus, get 3 months of NBA League Pass on us. The crown is yours.
Hello, everyone. It's President Donald J. Trump, and it's Trump time. Check out this red beauty. It's one of my new watches. Wear it proudly on your wrist, and everyone will know exactly what it's for, who it represents. It's really going to be something special. It's for your favorite president. Get your watch today at GetTrumpWatches.com. These make a great gift. It's Trump time. In a matter of weeks, the task force has made the largest number of arrests of cartel leaders, operatives, and gang members in American history, more than 3,000 and counting. That includes members of the ultra-violent New Generation Cartel, the Sinaloa Cartel, the LNFM Cartel, MS-13 Cartel, and you know MS-13, the gang, and Tren de Aragua, another beauty. That's a group of real garbage we have to deal with.
Well, President Trump holding a roundtable this afternoon alongside law enforcement and his cabinet, sharing their historic crack. I mean, it really is historic. How much they're cracking down on these drug people and human traffickers. It's huge. This comes as the U.S. military launching its 9th strike against, I guess, an alleged, I mean, they're dead, who cares, drug-carrying vessel, expanding the Trump administration's fight against drug trafficking out of South America. Director of the United States Marshal Service, Gady Serralta. All right, good to have you back on, sir. This is crazy, but
thank you for having me.
The fact that people are opposing this, like, in what metric do they have any ground to stand on?
I don't understand. I just think it doesn't matter what great idea the president comes up with, they're going to go against him. I don't understand under what metric at all. This is about keeping America safe, stopping the drugs before they get in. It is about putting violent criminals in jail, and those that we can deport them. All of that is to keep America safe. I really don't understand, not for 1 second, why they would fight that. I don't understand.
Yeah, no, especially because a notice went out at my 12-year-old daughter's school yesterday that there were drugs found on campus. So if that's the kind of thing we're worried about and people are fighting that, I mean, they're on a different plane. Tulsi Gabbard said something very interesting in this meeting about babies being trafficked. We have that soundbite. Roll this real quick.
Last example I'll share is probably the most insidious, was providing intelligence to the Mexican law enforcement that led to the arrest of a CJNG cartel-affiliated baby trafficker called La Diabla. Her whole money-making operation was centered around luring pregnant women, performing illegal C-sections, harvesting organs, and selling newborn babies.
selling babies and baby organs.
That's incredible. What a great leader we have in Tulsi Gabbard. We're very blessed as a nation to have her. I'll tell you this. La Diabla is Spanish for the female devil. And anyone that can do C-sections and remove children and take their organs and sell that, that is the devil.
Yeah.
I'm glad we don't have to worry about her any longer.
No, that's crazy. Here's something I want to bring it back domestically about California, actually. These guys don't know which way is up, apparently. They're saying, Nancy Pelosi was saying, that potentially they would arrest ICE agents if they violated state law that Trump could then not pardon them for. And I'm like, I seem to remember the Constitution having this little thing called the Supremacy Clause in it. What the heck is the former Speaker of the House talking about?
I don't know that she knows what she's talking about. To be quite honest with you, I find that the Constitution does not come into play, unfortunately, in some of the decisions that are made at Capitol Hill. We have to focus on what is right for this country. Arresting violent criminals, putting them in jail, deporting those that are here illegally because they have violated the law in the United States. I mean, I also happen to remember that that's a violation of code. And they're here illegally. They broke our laws. It's time to enforce the law, and that's what we get with President Trump, right? Yeah. That's what we get. We get a law and order nation back.
That's which is not a lot to ask for, considering how bad it's been recently, and we definitely appreciate Trump doing that. Gady Serralta, we appreciate it very much, sir.
Thank you very much. Take care.
All right. Coming up, a new report out showing men are leaving the Democrat Party at record rates. I couldn't imagine why. I mean, what's there not to love about the Democrats for men, right? We get that in our Culture Clash.
Consumer Cellular knows there are a lot of offers flying around, but they slip away too fast. We don't play games. What you see is what you get. Bet you're glad you wore cargo pants. See how we can cut your bill. Call Consumer Cellular.
WeatherTech products are designed and manufactured in America using only American raw materials. Most competitors make things 7,000 miles away and then wonder why they don't fit. With WeatherTech in your vehicle, you may hear angels singing as you marvel. How do they do it? Simple. American technology and American workers deliver quality, not imported junk for a few bucks less. Get the world's best floor liners and support America. Find your fit at WT.com.
Today's league is all about game changers. Faster play, crazy point swings, dudes that do it all. And DraftKings is the only sportsbook offering NBA League Pass, so you can catch the league's biggest stars all season long. Bet on all kinds of star player props. Bet live as the action happens. Bet with the only sportsbook that's dishing out exclusive access to NBA League Pass. All customers place $20 in NBA same-game parlay bets and get 3 months of NBA League Pass on us. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Do you have a yo-yo smile? Sometimes yellow, sometimes white. It's a constant battle between everyday stains and whitening treatments. Until now, get Smile Actives, the daily teeth whitening breakthrough that gives you a more youthful smile and helps you keep it.
At 43 years old, I don't mess around with products that waste my time. Smile Actives is easy. And it works. No gloopy trays, no messy strips. Just add a little bit on top of your toothpaste when you brush your teeth. And ta-da, white teeth.
Just add Smile Actives to your favorite toothpaste and watch the magic happen. Our patented Polyclean microfoam lifts away deep stains for a dramatically younger and whiter smile.
You have a choice. You can have those yellow teeth and just be old Nana or Pop-Pop, or you can be smiling and dazzling and full of confidence. I love my white teeth.
Scan, click, or call for your whitest smile yet. And if you order right now, we'll double your whitening free. Get an extra Smile Actives as our free gift to you, but only while supplies last.
I drink coffee every day. I started noticing that my teeth were not as bright as I like them to be, a little dingy. The Smile Active, it works. Got your boy gleaming.
100% of users saw whiter teeth. Smile Actives lifts away even the toughest stains from coffee, wine, and food. gently restoring your bright, youthful smile. Plus, it's safe for veneers, crowns, and dentures.
It's really a no-brainer if you want to whiten your teeth.
Clinically shown to brighten your teeth 5 shades whiter in just 7 days.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Act now. Get Smile Actives for just $24.95 and we'll double your order. Free. But hurry, this deal won't last. Smile Actives is guaranteed to work. Whiten your teeth or get your money back. No questions asked. Don't wait. Get Smile Actives for just $24.95 and we'll send you a second bottle absolutely free. That's free shipping. A free extra bottle. That's an incredible 58% savings. Scan the code, go to smileactives.com or call to get your beautiful whiter smile now.
This is keratin debris, where nail fungus grows. Nonix Nail Gel cleans out fungus by removing keratin debris. Using Nonix, 90% of nails improve. Get clinically proven results. So effective, it's money-back guaranteed.
Well, in a shock to approximately, give or take, no one, men are leaving the Democrat Party at a record rate. I mean, who knew they had men at all anymore? But according to a new report from The Hill, men are leaving in droves, flocking to the right in numbers they haven't seen in generations. That's The Hill saying that. I mean, who here would like to know why? Well, aside from the fact that they hired this woman to try to attract young men, okay, also because of things like this. Apparently, the Democrats just found out what a gym was, okay, and they're trying to put these people in there to attract them. Great. Let me stop you right there. No one's looking to the left for any type of macho-ness anymore. You're not winning this one back, buddy, okay? And they know it because they tried to demonize working out as right-wing extremist MAGA jerks. But they described a party well aware of shortcomings with young male voters, but also handicapped by the lack of centralized approach as groups experiment with messaging and strategy. The critiques in many of those ways mirror those directed at the Democrat Party more broadly, as it has struggled to counter the Trump White House. It turns out also that if you spend your entire political platform telling white men that they are bad, they just leave. Unless they hate themselves enough to have the low T to stay there. Shawn Farash, comedian and host of Ungoverned on LFA TV and K-Smythe, writer for KSmytheHill.com. Shawn, I mean, the finally kind of got like the 1 to 200 testosterone level has finally sunk in on the Democrat Party's radar.
I cannot believe for a second that young men would not be drawn to a party that is currently led by Pete Buttigieg and Tim Walz. Just color me shocked. Color me shocked that those strong alpha male men aren't appealing to young voters who, want to grow up to like join the army, who they don't like, the Democrats or the police.
Guys, these are Democrats.
Remember all Democrats. Like, who wouldn't want to be with? You know what? I don't want to be with those people. Look, you mean to tell me that Zoran Mamdani struggling to bench 130 pounds isn't that's not appealing to young men? Wow. Running and working out and fitness, that's all linked to white supremacy. Did you hear that? If you're African American and you run or you work out, you are a race traitor, okay? I just can't seem to figure out why that wouldn't be an appealing message to young men. I'm really, really puzzled, Carl. I don't know.
Well, it's because they defined Ella Emhoff as the Democrat Sydney Sweeney. I was like, hard pass on that one. It's okay. The Democrats, though, are still freaking out about Trump's ballroom renovation project and crying Adam Kinzinger thought he should step in with this one. He said, will not a single elected Republican speak up? What do you want them to say? I mean, like Obama tore half the White House off to build a basketball court and they were totally silent.
Yeah, and I feel like, I don't know, like Adam Kinzinger, like talk about like weak men that no one wants to look at or have represent him, like ew. No, I love this. And I said this on Twitter, like every single Democrat freaking out about Trump's renovations. Okay, so he's going to rebuild. That's what renovation means. He's going to tear down some old stuff and put up some new stuff. Like I said to Gavin Newsom, I was like, how about you go and renovate your own state? How about you look at the absolute trash that most Democrats have created in their home states, and they can go and fix that before they start throwing stones in glass houses. Like, I mean, these people have zero idea that when they point a finger, there's 3 pointing back at them.
Well, that's the other thing, too, is I said also on Twitter, I was like, hey, Gavin Newsom, why don't you line up? Trump will build this, you build the high-speed rail, see which happens first. I mean, Also, Democrat whip Catherine Clark, Sean, said the quiet part basically out loud in an interview last night, saying, shutdowns are terrible. Of course, there will be families that are going to suffer, but it is one of the few leverage times we have because it's all about leverage, right?
That's right. It's all about leverage. It's all about, positioning yourself in some way to preserve some narrative on the mainstream media that, oh my gosh, Donald Trump is a king and we're protesting the king by shutting down the government. I protested the king by buying a crown and mocking the left. You see this thing, long live the king. I went to Spirit Harbor. It's a beautiful crown, by the way. And we're renovating the ballroom. It's going to become the throne room, which is going to be a lot better than a lot of throne rooms, including you look at Jiggly Belly Pritzker, his throne room's a disaster. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, these people, all they want to do, right, all they want to do is talk about leverage, narrative. I have one question for Democrats, right? If illegal aliens aren't voting in our elections, then why are Democrats treating them like they vote in our elections and pandering to them and trying to give them all sorts of free stuff like they do to every other vote they try to earn? Mm-hmm. I think it's a question that a lot of people should be asking. But, yeah, the shutdown's all about leverage, and it's all posturing, and I'm tired of it.
Oh, 100%. But, Kay, the same thing is these people for so long have tried to take the moral high ground. And now that Trump is like, you know what? No, your narrative is not going to last here. And I'm going to keep pounding this button. They're losing this in mass.
I don't understand when Democrats have ever had the moral high ground. Let's just go back to, Hillary Clinton. Let's go back to Bill Clinton, who, defiled the White House and then ignored all of the intelligence that said 9/11 was going to happen. Mm-hmm. Then let's go up to what Obama did to the Democratic Party, which was basically Medicaid, which was, hey, all you hardworking middle-class people who actually support the country, we're just going to take all of your money and give it to fat people who don't want to work. And then we have Biden, who can't even run the country because he can barely even walk.
He called a lit at 1:30.
The list goes on. They try to destroy women. They destroy the country. They've never had the moral high ground. They need to go home.
I agree. Got to leave it right there. Sean Kay, always a pleasure. I could do this for 9 minutes if we had to. All right, we'll see you guys soon. Coming up, another Biden released illegal, causing a deadly crash after being issued a trucking license by a sanctuary state. Those deets next.
There's nothing worse than losing your dog before their time.
That's why I created Dr. Marty Nature's Blend, designed to help dogs with everything from digestive issues to itching, even moving better.
Nature's Blend works because it's freeze-dried. So instead of destroying the nutrients with high heat, they all get right into your dog's body.
Take it from a veterinarian with over 50 years of experience saving dogs' lives. I have never seen a food make this much impact on a dog's health.
For a limited time, get up to 54% off Dr. Marty Nature's Blend, plus a free gift with our special TV offer. Call or go to drmartypets.com/TV.
Make this Christmas the year you go all in on joy. At Balsam Hill, celebrate with one of our beautifully crafted lifelike trees. For a limited time during our anniversary sale, save up to 50% off and start making memories at balsamhill.com.
Jesus Christ came to take the muck out of you. Let me send you this free book, The Everlasting Gospel of Christ. This is absolutely free. We simply want you to know Jesus Christ.
There's a war raging in our society. It's not a battle over politics, race, or the sexual revolution. It's a battle for truth.
What we believe about the Bible is based on what we believe about its source.
The God Who Speaks is an award-winning documentary that uncovers the evidence for the Bible's authority. Discover the truth today. Visit thegodwhospeaks.org.
Humana Medicare Advantage plans. Carry this card, and you could have the power to get benefits beyond original Medicare. These are convenient plans that offer all of the benefits of original Medicare, plus extra coverage and benefits. With a Humana Medicare Advantage plan, you could get doctor, hospital, and prescription drug coverage in one convenient plan, with $0 copays on hundreds of prescriptions. All plans include dental coverage, including $0 copays for covered preventive services, vision coverage with eye exams, and an allowance to use towards eyewear, and hearing benefits with routine hearing exams and coverage toward hearing aids. That's more than you get with original Medicare. But it gets even better because Humana offers plans with $0 or low monthly plan premiums. You may also get $0 copays for routine vaccines at in-network retail pharmacies, $0 copays for in-network primary care visits, and $0 copays for in-network preventive services. Plus, worldwide coverage for emergency and urgent care when you travel. And Medicare Advantage plans ensure your covered medical costs, including doctor and emergency care, will never go above a maximum out-of-pocket amount that you know beforehand. Imagine benefits like these in one convenient plan. Plus, you'll have access to Humana's multiple large plan networks of doctors, hospitals, and pharmacies. So if you want more from Medicare, call or scan the QR code now to see if there's a plan in your area that could give you extra coverage and benefits, including coverage for doctor, hospital, and prescription drugs, plus a cap on your out-of-pocket medical costs. And all plans include coverage for dental, vision, and hearing. A knowledgeable, licensed Humana sales agent will explain your coverage options, even help you enroll over the phone. Call today, but now is the time. The annual enrollment period ends December 7th. Humana, a more human way to healthcare.
3 innocent people in California are dead because an illegal alien who Democrats let into this country was wrongfully issued a trucker's driving license and clearly was not fit for the job because he was driving intoxicated and killed 3 innocent people.
Illegal truck driver from India with driving under the influence and 3 counts of vehicular manslaughter after they say he caused a crash that killed 3 people. Like, I want to warn you, this video you're about to see is pretty messed up, but police say that the 21-year-old man was speeding and potentially drunk when he slammed his semi-truck into multiple cars. I mean, trapped one in between there, stopped in traffic on the freeway. DHS confirming the suspect was caught by Border Patrol actually back in 2022, but, drum roll please, was released back into the country by the Biden administration. Gee, thanks, Joey B. Another example of these sanctuary politicians putting illegals before American people. Patrick Dorinson, the Common Sense Cowboy, and the author of the fantastic new book, The Common Sense Cowboy's Guide to Life, Stories from the Old Guy at the End of the Bar. Patrick, this is insane.
It's not only insane, Carl. Every day we're reminded of the horrible, disastrous policies of the Biden administration. And what this open border policy, supported by the California Democrats and every other Democrat in this country, has done. Anybody who's ever driven on the 10 freeway knows you're taking your life into your hands every day merely because it's full of trucks, everybody's going fast, and once again, just like everything else in California, it really hasn't been upgraded in a number of years, so it's a crummy freeway to begin with.
Right.
But you know something? I'm getting a little tired of Gavin Newsom and everybody else on the left getting away with the idea that they're giving CDLs to these guys. Look, Gavin Newsom, the entire legislature of the state of California, at least the Democratic members, should all be held criminally liable for every death in that crash, and somebody ought to be sued by the victims in that crash.
Yeah. Or, somebody, like you said, criminally liable should go to jail. But this isn't the first incident this has happened. It happened in Florida, too, with a California, maybe it was a California or New York driver's license. Back in August,
California.
The suspect in that case, also an illegal from India, attempted to make that illegal U-turn, causing a crash that also killed 3 people. I mean, right here in New York, another Indian illegal was given a commercial license with no name given on it, and they're driving an 88,000-pound truck.
Yep. That's Carl. But again, where's the outrage in this country besides from folks on our side? The left doesn't care. The mainstream media tries to hide this stuff because they know that it goes against the narrative of the Democrats that everybody's just coming here for a better life, which is a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah. Well, speaking of nonsense, which, this is near and dear to my heart, the Senate today failed, well, I should say the Democrats in the Senate failed to pass a bill to keep essential federal workers, like our troops, paid throughout this government shutdown. But they said, no, we'll lose our leverage if we do that. So we're going to keep the whole government shut down. And the people, the military guy, I was one of them. I lived paycheck to paycheck. They said, screw you. Thanks for your service. Thanks, Democrats.
Well, you know something, Carl? If the Democrats, both the House and the Senate, continue with these idiotic stunts, trying to gain leverage and the troops then don't get paid, they're going to be in the political wilderness longer than the ancient Hebrews wandered the desert for 40 years after they left Egypt and they sinned against God. And the only problem for the Democrats is there ain't no Moses to lead them out.
No.
Now, both Hakeem and his buddy Chuck are worried that their leadership positions are in jeopardy, and their left is pushing them hard to hold out, and they're more scared about their own skins than they are about the troops.
Yeah. No, that is actually a shockingly true statement. And neither of them know how to use a barbecue, apparently, if you remember those posts.
Yeah.
Patrick Dorinson, pleasure as always.
You bet.
All right, coming up, the UK is more interested in inclusivity than safety. But are we at risk of those policies making their way over here? Kind of seems like it. Details next.
Back in the day, you bet sinners just to get boards.
Word.
Now I take them to make threes.
Today's NBA stars, everybody does everything.
Ant-Man, SGA, Luka, dudes playing 1 through 5.
Bigs dishing out like family dinner.
Woo! Got me smashing triple doubles. Shaq, basketball, not burgers.
New customers bet $5 and get $300 if your bet wins. Paid in bonus bets. Plus, get 3 months of NBA League Pass on us. The crown is yours.
Start your journey with Balance of Nature supplements. Get 35% off your first preferred set by using discount code Newsmax.
Mother Nature never takes a day off, and neither does LeafGuard. LeafGuard, the only seamless one-piece rainwater management system with a clog-free guarantee. In most cases, we can install LeafGuard in less than a day, and it comes with a lifetime transferable warranty. Call now for 10% off LeafGuard, a $100 Visa gift card with purchase, and a $50 gift card with estimate. Plus, call during this program for our double savings sale. Double your savings to 20% off a complete LeafGuard system. Double your bonus to a $200 Visa gift card with purchase. And if you call now, we'll double your free gift to a $100 gift card with estimate. And once you get LeafGuard, you'll have more time to go on vacation. Be one of the first 50 homeowners who call now will receive a vacation voucher with purchase of a complete LeafGuard system. Call now to take advantage of our double savings sale. Don't deal with those old gutters any longer. Call now for LeafGuard.
LeafGuard handled it great. We had an awful lot of rain the last couple of days, and we didn't get any clogs at all. All of the rain just went right down through the gutters. All the pine needles slid right off.
LeafGuard works so well that it's earned the Good Housekeeping seal 20 years in a row. Don't deal with those old gutters any longer. Call during this program and take advantage of our double savings sale. Double your savings to 20% off a complete LeafGuard system, and double your bonus to a $200 Visa gift card with purchase. And remember, with LeafGuard, the top's not a cover, it's part of the gutter, and it comes with a clog-free guarantee. And if you call now, we're going to double your free gift. Receive a $100 gift card with your in-home estimate. And the first 50 homeowners who call will receive a vacation voucher with LeafGuard purchase. Call now to take advantage of our double savings sale. Don't deal with those old gutters any longer. Call now for LeafGuard.
Well, folks, we're coming in with some breaking news. President Trump hitting Democrats in a truth just a few minutes ago, saying, I think the Democrats have gone totally crazy. They don't care about people. I really think they have no leadership. They really should approve an extension, get the country back to work, and get the people paid. I happen to agree with that. But as we know, the UK is in super major trouble right now with migrants and the government starting to control its own citizens. I'll give you just some examples of what's going on over there. You can't pray in your own home if you live too close to a mosque because of zones. You can't say, I love bacon. Someone actually got arrested for that. You can't walk a dog in certain places because it apparently offends Muslims, and that's such a big part of their population now. It's a problem. This has been brought to you by a bunch of people more interested in inclusivity than their own safety or their own customs of their country. This is not speculation. An entire nation is giving us the blueprint of what people like Ma'am Demi could and have essentially said they want to bring to America. This is a guy who made a point that visiting a mosque during an election cycle is apparently a prerequisite to becoming mayor of New York. And in some weird desire to include that in our society, we are like committing cultural suicide. What's worse is the influence of non-American born voters having. American-born voters in New York, only 31% are in favor of Mamdani. But among foreign-born voters, which there are a lot of, New Yorkers, it says it's a whopping 62% of foreign-born voters are going to vote for him. And that could put him over the finish line. We're witnessing the biggest self-own and cultural suicide in history. People willing to let other people impose their culture and their will on us in our own country simply to avoid being called intolerant. Amber Duke, senior editor at the Daily Caller, and Brianna Lyman, correspondent for The Federalist. Okay, Brianna, I look at this and I'm like, this could get real bad real quick.
Yeah, Carl, that polling you just pulled up about the New York City race, I think what it proves to us is that the problem isn't just mass illegal immigration, it is mass legal immigration. We are not using our discernment, we are not using our prudence when we decide what foreigners come here. And what we're finding is that we have imported foreigners who are incapable of self-governance. They don't believe in property rights. Those two things go hand in hand. That is what underpins the success of this republic. And we know this to be true because if you believe in property rights, if you are capable of self-governance, you would never vote for Mamdani. So I think using this going forward, we have to make sure that when we allow foreigners to come here, they have to come from a culture and a society that is capable of self-governance.
But here's another thing, Amber. Eric Adams has now endorsed Andrew Cuomo, which I never thought I'd see coming, 2 days earlier before voting starts. But roll this.
I'm fighting for the family of New York. That's why I'm here today, to endorse Andrew Cuomo to be part of this fight. And I'm going to give him my all these next few days. While you criticize Andrew and you called him names, you know what? And he called me names. But you know what? Now it's time to fight for the family. And I'm going to fight for the family.
I mean, noble push and, whatever, but there's still a lot of people that are just not over the fact that Andrew Cuomo managed things so poorly during COVID that it got people killed, and they know a lot of them.
That's right. And I thought Curtis Sliwa put it really well when he said, this is not a Curtis Sliwa problem. This is a Democratic Party problem. And now I'm supposed to drop out of the race to swoop in and save them for giving New Yorkers two terrible options. And Andrew Cuomo has tried to pin the blame for his hemorrhaging support on Curtis as well, but he doesn't seem to grapple with the fact that he's the one who decided to jump in a Democratic primary and run against the incumbent mayor and attack him throughout the process, even when he was forced to leave the Democratic Party and become an independent. So this is a monster of his own creation, and he's the one who has to take the blame for allowing Mamdani to become the new star of the Democratic Party.
Unfortunately, New Yorkers are going to bear the brunt of this, but, it's going to be interesting to see. All right, 30 seconds to each of you here. Gerrymandering, it's only bad when Republicans do it, apparently, because look at this. These are some of the states, okay? These states all have, that's the percentage of Republican voters in those states, yet 0 seats in all 9 of them, Brianna.
All right, 2 fast points. First and foremost, we know the 2020 census included illegal aliens that actually disproportionately hurt Republicans because it gave Democrats the upper hand. So Republicans have an incentive to redistrict all of their states. The second point I'd make is Massachusetts. There are 9 congressional seats, all belong to Democrats, even though the state split. I think it was 61% for Kamala Harris, which means 39% went elsewhere. You know what a Republican state can do to match Massachusetts? Indiana, 59% of the vote went to Donald Trump, and yet they have Democrat-held congressional seats. Fix that balance of power, Indiana.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we're out of time. Amber, we'll get you next time on this. We appreciate both of you being here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carl.
All right. All right, well, we've been talking a lot about the new book, Pagan Threat, which includes a foreword by Charlie Kirk. It was his last published word before his death. Well, we have some very exciting news. The New York Times will debut Pagan Threat on November 2nd as its number 4 on the New York Times best-selling list. Senior director for TPUSA Faith and author of that fantastic book, Pastor Lucas Miles. This is crazy. Like, this thing got way up there. It shows that Charlie Kirk has some staying power in this audience, even long past all the media hype post his assassination.
Obviously, I was honored to have Charlie as part of the book and to write the foreword. I think he understood this pagan threat better than anybody. Ultimately, I think this threat is what took his life. That is this Marxist infiltration of our culture, producing this godlessness among this younger generation, where human life is no longer valued. So I'm glad to see the messages resounding with my readers, and it's so important that we get people to understand exactly what's happening here in this nation, and that we really make efforts to begin to see the gospel resound in such a way that we can really take back this generation.
Yeah, obviously, Trump awarding him posthumously the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Huge news, but it's also become, I almost want to say, like a political battle cry for the right now, for people to say. And it's honestly, it's kind of restored a lot of people's faith, ironically enough, after an assassination. But people have come closer to their faith, I think, in this thing, no?
Yeah, look, my own church has doubled since Charlie's assassination. We are seeing, Bible sales spiking. We're seeing church attendance spiking. Look, this is the revival that Charlie always wanted. Ultimately, we all wish that he wouldn't have had to lose his life in order for this to take place. But this is what we've been fighting for at TPUSA Faith for, some time now. I was honored to serve under Charlie's leadership for the last 18 months or so at TPUSA Faith. And we're going to continue this mission forward, really getting the word out and helping churches really continue to, I think, steward this revival well as we move forward.
Yeah, no, it's really nice to see somebody, being remembered that did a lot. I mean, like this guy arguably delivered the youth vote for Donald Trump in the last election. Looking back, if there was one thing you could say to Charlie, if he came back and you could say it, what would it be?
Honestly, I had a great relationship with Charlie. I loved serving underneath him. We had plenty of conversations. Obviously, I wish I could see him again, but I'm very thankful that there was nothing left unsaid. My very last words to him was that I was proud of him after he had shared with me that he had been able to share the gospel with a massive number of Japanese leaders on his trip to Asia. Mm-hmm. We ended just in a great place in that. I'm looking forward to seeing my brother again in heaven. I know he's with the Lord.
All right. Well, Pastor Lucas Miles, we appreciate it. Great book.
Thank you.
All right. Well, since Charlie Kirk's tragic death, we at Newsmax have been speaking about the new book, Pagan Threat, by Pastor Lucas Miles, who you just heard from. Includes the foreword by Charlie Kirk, last published words before his death. Some big news, though. Pagan Threat with Charlie's foreword just hit the New York Times bestseller. The Times will debut Pagan Threat on November 2nd as number 4 on its list. This is huge news. Americans want to hear what Pastor Miles and Charlie Kirk had to say. And Pagan Threat, Charlie gave some serious warnings to America. If you've not seen the book, it's on Amazon. It's on bookstores. Check it out for free online. Charlie's legacy does actually really, honestly live on. Before we go, it's Thursday. We got comments for Carl next.
The press won't report the real story.
The American people are actually very smart.
Ridiculous statements.
These guys are just plain weird.
Actual scandals.
Even the immunity decision. I mean, that decision was so misreported.
That's my job, and I aim to do it every night.
Hi, folks. I'd like to tell you about YRefi. Did you know that as an accredited investor, when you invest in YRefi, your interest rate is fixed? And did you know that you can invest from 1 to 5 years and you can spread your investment over those terms to best suit your needs? And you have the freedom to take your monthly interest income or reinvest it, whatever you choose. When you invest in YRefi, your interest is calculated daily, you're paid monthly, and should you need your money back early, there is a liquidity feature. Would you like more information? All you have to do is call 877-80-INVEST. That's 877-80-INVEST, or log on to investyrrefi.com. That's investyrrefi.com for complete details. And make sure you review the private placement memorandum and scan this QR code to view the disclosure at your leisure. YRefi, investing in America's future.
AI company Palantir makes critical decisions for governments around the world. In 2019, Palantir bought $50 million in gold in case of black swan events. Not surprising what followed. In 2020, a pandemic shut down the global economy. And in 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine. In 2023, we had a regional banking collapse. And in 2025, could a 1929 market crash be the final straw? Give Patriot Gold Group a call at 888-528-4290 before it's too late. Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold and silver dealer 8 years in a row, home of the no fee for life IRA. Patriot Gold Group is patriots protecting patriots. Call now, 888-528-4290.
Drop is finally here. Drop delivers the weight loss benefits of GLP-1 injections in easy-to-use oral drops, no needles.
That's right. The two big drawbacks with weight loss injections are high costs and weekly injections. Drop is flavorless and odorless, so you can just add it to water or your favorite beverage. Drop offers other advantages over injections too. With Drop, you can personalize your dosage based on your weight loss goals.
And because you add Drop to any liquid, there's no concern about injection site infections, bruising, or dosage confusion.
Drop is the easier, safer, cost-effective alternative to help you achieve your weight loss goals without the needles.
Can't find it anywhere? The Wellness Company has it. No consultation needed. Simply order online and use promo code SLIM to save $100. Visit dropthepounds.com/slim. That's promo code SLIM at dropthepounds.com/slim.
With today's NBA stars, no lead is safe.
Bet on it. Up 20 used to be a lock.
To Steph, Booker, and Brunson, that's fool's gold.
Got a lead against the Joker? Joke's on you.
Hoopers get hot like pop, pop, pop. And your bet just cashed.
That's money.
New customers bet $5 and get $300 if your bet wins. Paid in bonus bets. Plus, get 3 months of NBA League Pass on us. The crown is yours.
All right, folks, it's Thursday. We're back with another week of comments for Carl. Let's go. Hey, remember when Supreme Court Ketanji Brown Jackson, said that black people were disabled and that's why they needed their own congressional districts? I mean, we played the soundbite of her saying it. And I kindly noted that she may have failed an IQ test with that comment. Gary on Twitter or X said, "You're too stupid to understand how smart she actually is." This is actually a perfect comparison. I know you're not a very smart person, but try to keep up. Rob's over here laughing. She didn't even know what a woman was, dude. I mean, bless your cotton socks, Gary. Imagine going through life with this little self-awareness about how dumb a Supreme Court justice is. Anyway, I noted that Harry Sissons was taking a victory lap after Trump meme dropping poo on him from a fighter jet. And honestly, I thought it was funny, saying that he was like, this is like the best thing that's ever happened to this guy. And this SAT champion said, "How can you be a former SEAL," note the capitalization, "and be this much of a dumb female dog?" First off, SEAL is capitalized because it stands for sea, air, and land, not the animal. But further, if you look at his pinned tweet, it calls for Trump being shot in the ear in Pennsylvania was actually all staged for a Photoshop. I guess I don't really have anything else to say to this guy. But last, this kind lady, and I'm doing this with all due respect, sent me a very nice email the other day talking about how much she loves the show, which I really appreciate. But she concluded with this, saying, "I'm so sad that you're no longer the host on Fridays." Look, I take one Friday off. I don't take a lot of vacation here. I do take some Fridays off during hunting season, which happens to be now, so I can get into the woods with my kids, kill some deer. I don't like taking full weeks off, so I reserve most of my vacation for that. Don't worry. I think my next day off is like not for another month or something like that. Okay? But Fridays seem to work best. It's what we do for the news cycle to try to not miss a bunch of stuff. I try not to take Mondays. Rob,
Then Trump comes out and drops a whole bunch of stuff on Friday.
Exactly. The one
you
day,
never know.
The one day we take off, and all of a sudden they indict half the planet.
Yeah. Friday is a sleeper. It could be some big news days on Fridays if you're not careful.
Yeah, but if we take like a whole week off, people are like,
I know.
"Hey, where'd you go?"
I know. And then your willing replacement is right behind you.
Exactly. There you go.
Good to see
All
you.
right, take it away, Rob.
Thanks so much. All right.